Hi, friends. Welcome to Enlightened World Network. Dr. Ruth Anderson here for Focus on Lightworkers. Today, our very special guest is Kumari Mullin. Kumari is a catalyst for spiritual evolution. She's an internationally acclaimed energy alchemist, a Reiki Master, an intuitive coach, a best-selling author, and animal mystic. Kumari was a civil rights attorney when her father died of cancer in 1988, inspiring her to master energy medicine. Kumari, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Ruth. We were just saying how at home we feel. I'm so grateful to be sharing this space with you because it's just so easy and natural and wonderful. Thank you for creating it.
Oh, absolutely. So, Kumari, I know you are hanging out with some fascinating women right about now, Terry Angel and Marbeth Dunn, and you all are working on 10 million for peace. So why don't you first take a minute and just share with us what that project is, and then we'll get into your personal projects.
It's interesting because my personal projects, most of them have been put on hold. And sometimes I can get frustrated with that guidance when my team is like, nope, don't launch that course, that program. And when Terry and Marbeth came along and shared what they're doing, this meditating just 7 minutes a day for world peace, focusing on world leaders, I went, that's why I wasn't supposed to do anything. Because I need to do this because I have been a meditator for 35 years. I've studied with amazing internationally recognized masters. And I know the power of that in a group. And so Marbeth and Terry also know that when enough of us gather together with that focused intention from a pure heart and a loving gratitude, sharing out to the world, it is potent stuff. And I think there's never been a more, I guess, important time for us to become who we are and really practice who we are together. So I think it's a lot of my students and clients have been saying, I want to be an activist. I want to get moving. I was a political activist in my early days as a lawyer and such. But now it's all about the inner, conquering the inner worlds and being a master of my own vibration. However, this allows us to first focus on that and then share that. And I think that's what's really potent. When enough of us come together, we're an unstoppable train of peace train, I hope. And I know in past, these experiments have shown that even just a very short time, you can drop the scales for violence in certain areas with this kind of concerted effort. So I'm really thrilled. I know it works. And we just need as many people to join us as we can to make it as broad as we can. So I'm thrilled.
So Kumari, the three of you together, you each bring so much strength and power and energy and groundedness to this project. Tell me about you. What are you bringing to the table spiritually for folks? I know you've been a teacher for many, many years. What all are you bringing? What have you been bringing to the table? We'll put it that way.
Well, aside from the peace project, the 10 million for peace, I have been focusing on my own journey for many, many years. And I think that never ends. The inner conquest of the ego mind and all the worry thoughts and all the things that pull us out of our central channel and our internal beautiful alignment with all of who we are. And so I have practiced so many techniques from chanting and meditation and yoga to all sorts of sacred geometry teachings. I've Reiki, being integrated with the universal life force. All of them have changed my life and my ability to share that. To me, it was always about sharing it, not how spiritual can I be, but how can I help other people to find more peace? I think with all the tools I have, I still have challenges navigating this world, especially as a sensitive and empath. And so there have been many deep challenges. And I think, wow, if I didn't have my tools, how would I navigate this in any kind of semblance of certainty or clarity or wisdom? And so the more I find that works for me, the more I get excited to share. So I have shared techniques first as a healer, a Reiki master, that really lit me up early on. I share any technique that helps someone to ground, as you mentioned, because I think a lot of spiritual people open up, but they open up here and they go out for comfort. And that is the first step, is to find that spiritual connection, that divine alignment, if you will, that allows us to feel like there's more. There's more to this world. There's more to this life when we're feeling so desperately like, is this all there is? Just struggle and heartache. And so that has to happen first. But a lot of people stay there and they're very perhaps ineffectual in the world because they haven't brought that spiritualized connection back down. And so I think, especially my work with the animals, you have to be embodied. You have to be in your heart center. They're not all mindy. They're not all thinking thoughts. Mostly they're not. They're vibrating at certain energetic frequencies that are either stressed out and afraid or calm and serene. And so when we vibrate with the calm and serene, they start opening up and the communication begins. But a lot of that work is the deeper work of releasing all the old stories, all the old wounding, all the old, and not everybody wants to do that leg of the journey. They want to get high, in the God energy, if you will, the spiritual energy, and nothing wrong with that. I have a bliss retreat based on a lot of the techniques I share are very, very good at putting people into states of that ecstasy, that divine bliss, which is pretty amazing. But it's also the deeper work. And that's why I learned coaching. I was a counselor for many years. I have a lot of training in different ways to help people manage the four bodies, not just the spiritual body, but the mental, the emotional, the physical. So, I think I bring a balance to the amazing energetics that come through me when I'm in my connected space and when my divine team is ratcheting up for the next round of new energetics for the earth and for us. My job is always to ground it, to anchor it, to learn how to be in a body with this ever increasing brilliance and radiance. And it's intense sometimes to hold the light. And I don't just mean to hold an uplifting idea. I mean to physically hold more light, right? I know you know what I'm saying because the light's streaming down in your photo right now. But to be an emissary of the light means we have to anchor more of the higher vibration energies. And that takes a lot of, constant clearing, it seems, constant letting go of the denser parts of us, the heavier aspects of us that are old stories and old perceptions and ways of thinking that aren't really truth,
No, I do understand completely. You were talking about animal communication, and I love animal communication. Do you remember back to when you started?
I actually do, because I never started it. I was kind of pushed on the path. I have always been attuned to animals. I remember as a school child coming home with deceased animals and doing funerals, and I'd gather all my neighbors together for the latest mole funeral or gopher funeral or squirrel funeral. And I was constantly loving being around them. I felt very seen and heard by them, not in languaging kind of ways, but just heart to heart. They were easy for me to connect with. As a matter of fact, pretty much all animals loved me early on. So I was like, way easier than people, it seemed. So as I started becoming a Reiki master and doing a lot of personal human healing, I remember one woman's, I helped her blood pressure. She had one session and her blood pressure came down significantly and it stayed down. And she said, well, my dog has some heart conditions and some other health related concerns. Can you help him too? And she brought the dog to the next session. And I said, of course, we're all the same. We're all the same energy, and we carry forward stories that block our flow, our energy flow in the balance of things. And so it blocks sometimes healthy ways of relating in the body. So I noticed that the same patterns that I was noticing for humans, meaning mostly 90 some percent, was emotional repression of difficult emotions and feelings that people couldn't process at the time and release. So we stored them in our biology. Our biology started having these landmines of old emotional energies that were never fully processed, kind of like the wave was too big coming at us, and so we stepped aside, but that's still sort of waiting for us to deal with. So it's the same with animals. They have dramas and traumas as well, and sometimes they hold on to things, but they don't hold on to it with their mind, and so when they are given a pathway to let go or to flow more life force or beautiful universal life force or chi, they are like, oh, thank you. They don't have a deepened story that says, but I need to hold on to that, and I don't know if this is possible. And so they're actually much easier to work with for me. When they decide to heal, they're very quick about it, when they're shown a way to let go of an old pattern. So what happened was people started coming to me, and I just trotted out the same information that was working with people. In other words, I started sensing energy. I'm very clairsentient. I can feel all sorts of distinct vibrations, like guilt is different than anger, is different than resentment, is different than, subtly. And so I got really laser focused on identifying the emotional stuckage or blockage that was, I made that word up, that was operating, and that's sometimes all I would need to know to tell the person, it feels like there's some guilt stored in your solar plexus. Let's just focus there and make an intention to release any energies that are in your solar plexus. Same with the animals. The energies still had the same texture, and I was able to just tell a very simple story to allow them another choice. You see, in that connected heart-mind space, they could feel that they had choice finally. And so the healing energy plus the intuitive work was, wow, things were moving very quickly. But it's that combination. It's not just knowing things, knowing what's wrong. It's actually being in the universal life force of Reiki, that's what it means, that would allow it to shift very quickly. So the story wasn't nearly as important as the ability to shift it, but sometimes we needed both. And so the first time I taught, and no one taught me this, right? It was just, it came from my exploration intuitively of what I was sensing on the subtle level with people. And I just asked 1,000,001 questions. I said, I'm sensing this. What are you sensing? I'm feeling this weight in your belly. What are you feeling? Bring your attention to the heart space. There's something opening there. And I just played with the person about what I was sensing and practiced. And it didn't always jive. So I learned what was me, what might have been, in the beginning, it was like 50-50. 50% my healing was going on and 50% them. Now it's like, I want to say 99.99% them, because I've learned how to empty out and just be present with what's going on with them. So the animals started coming, and one woman said, because I was so good at communicating, I started getting animal communication clients as well. They said, this one woman was leaving the country, and she said, I want you to teach me. And I said, oh, no, I don't teach. Because I had no idea how I was doing what I was doing. I had just been practicing with people all along, and it worked the same on animals. And it bore out right. If I said something, that I'd have the person on the lines confirming, that I use a lot of validation. I don't just wing it. So I was always one-to-one with them, so they could hear in the moment what I was getting and give me feedback, and so I could refine it. So she said, oh, no, you have to teach me. I need to learn how to do this. And I said a second time, no, I really have no idea how I do it. And I had a dog who was helping me a lot at the time. She was very, very, very high aware being. And 3 times I said no. And finally she called me and she said, 10 people are coming to my house on this weekend, and they're coming for you to teach them. That's how I got started on that end of it. Yeah. So I was forced into it in the sense of, 10 people coming with the promise of me teaching. And I sat and I meditated and I prayed for guidance on how. I knew what I had to do. I just didn't know how to do it in a day or two, because I had spent already a decade opening my heart chakra, aligning my higher mind with my higher heart, working out lots of the energies that blocked my sensitivity. And, I didn't have to do that in a day. I had a meditation master who did give me the Kundalini awakening called Shaktipat. So all these things had happened for me. And I'm thinking, how do I open others to this? So I sat and I prayed, and I got a beautiful guided meditation, which I use to this day, called Connecting with All Life. And it was the heart opening meditation that I used in all my classes, and it works like a charm. People that tried to meditate for decades with many famous people, they said this was the first time that they could really meditate. So it was a gift from spirit, that allowed me. And then I pulled together a bunch of techniques that made sense to me, that we practiced. We practiced giving and receiving answers and colors and numbers. And a lot of them I couldn't do very well because I never wasn't how I did it. But everybody had different clairs, clairvoyance, clairsentience, so some people would hear, some people would see, some people would have a combination or just direct knowing, their omniscience. And I learned how to help them find their strong suit of how their intuition began to open up. And the truth is, the animal communication workshops were really intuitive development workshops, but they were so motivated because their baby, was needing more understanding or more help. So the animals really, I felt like, brought the people to me that really needed the work. But and I actually heard that from some of the animals, that they brought their person to me for, because they never would have jumped in one of my classes otherwise. They didn't think they needed anything. But through the animals, many, many people awakened. So it's been really, really amazing.
So, Kumari, a person doesn't just get to this place. This has probably been a lifetime of connecting with spirit, understanding one's connection with nature and with guides, whether it's a conscious knowingness or not. When you look back at your life, can you see where you were at one with nature and with spirit growing up? Or really, did this just happen later in life?
I can now, but I would never have claimed that early on, that I just woke up and I could hear spirit, or I just, as a child got voices in my head. It was never like that. It's a way more of a full on whole being connection, like you described, with nature, with animals. I do remember in second, third, fourth, fifth grade, one of those grades, I remember I was raised Catholic, and I went to, I think, 16 years of Catholic school and college, and steeped in that path. And so I had a great love for Jesus, and not so much understanding the church ways, but had a connection with Jesus, which I still have to this day. He's my main teacher. And he likes Yeshua, I found out, but his Hebrew pronunciation. But back then, I remember once I was outside for recess or lunch break, and they were playing basketball or hoops or something. And I was on the tarmac, and I was having this experience of time, the time ticking by. And I would look at the clock and I would freak out, going, this moment will never be again. This moment will never be, I didn't know what was happening, but I was being pushed into present time and being totally, and I didn't know why anybody else wasn't freaking out with me, that we weren't being present. We weren't grabbing the moments. We weren't. And that I was very young. And then I had this experience of Jesus being with me. I don't know how it came. It wasn't like outside of me. Just he's here and he's here and he's at recess and he's in the basketball court and he's everywhere with me. And why people weren't stopping and noticing. So I guess I had a few signs along the way. And I was terrified that I was going to have to be a nun. So I felt a calling very early on. I said, I cannot wear black. I definitely can't wear the thing, in the heat. We didn't have air conditioning in those days. And I used to cry at night because I felt a calling. And I remember asking all the nuns, what was your calling? How did you know? I was terrified it would be me. I was like, I really don't want to be a nun and have to wear that black thing.
Oh my goodness.
I haven't told anybody that story. Yeah. So there were early things. And then when my father died, you mentioned about cancer. I didn't get messages or anything, but I would sometimes have premonitions. Like I would be playing and I put my head up and say, be careful, don't trip on that stack of books that's there. And a few seconds later, the person would trip over the books. And that happened a lot. Just right before things happened, I had awareness. I had dreams. A friend of mine's father was dying and nobody had heard of this yet. So I told my mom after the third dream, I said, maybe I should ask about it. I hadn't seen her in years. And turned out she went to church and heard that he had cancer. And so my mom's like, don't dream about me. So there were things coming through. But the first time I really remember, it was when my father was in the hospital and he had lung cancer. And they tried to operate, but it had spread and it was spreading to his brain. It was full on spreading. And so, but he was still, he had Bernie Siegel tapes. I don't know if you remember Bernie Siegel. Back in the day, he was one of the first positive thinking surgeons or doctors. And he did a series of tapes. So my father was really practicing positive thinking, that he was going to heal. So he told all of us, don't come to the hospital and visit me. Wait till I go home and we have a real visit. He told everybody not to come. And he's end stage cancer, so he was totally trying to outthink this cancer, which was admirable. And I woke up at 3 a.m. with a voice in my head, and this was super clear this time. He's not coming home from the hospital. And it was so clear. And I literally sat bolt upright that I knew it was a voice from spirit that was guiding me. So I told the whole family, all the siblings, to fly in. I said, if I'm wrong, okay, but if I'm right, you're going to want to be there. And sure enough, those were the end days. So that voice got us all together, which I'm very grateful for. So there were breakthrough moments, but I have to say it was a path of unveiling those gifts so that they could be really consistent. So right after my father passed, I met beautiful guru from India. I didn't even know beings like this walked the earth, And I started traveling 10 hours, 14 hours every weekend I could from DC up to upstate New York to be with her. Because every time I was near her, my heart would just flutter with that love, like a childhood crush. Just my whole body would just start being in love. And I'd never experienced anything like that. If she looked at me, I felt like she was looking through me, in me. There was a fire lit, all kinds of amazing happening. So I do credit much of my awakening to her Shakti, her spiritual energy, and that path. And I followed it for decades. She's still my main teacher on earth. And I found another guru as well here in Florida who helped me learn I was getting the calling to learn how to be with AIDS, to help people with AIDS. And so I did AIDS service work for many years. And she was very, very instrumental in helping me be with the dying, and some really horrific examples of it. And I learned a ton from both amazing teachers. So I can't say I did any of it on my own, but I think I was always an empath, always a sensitive, and always wanted God, if that's an okay thing to say these days. I wanted God. I did. I just couldn't find it in the Catholic path. And yet now, if I go to church, everywhere I go, but it had to be ignited in other methods and ways, because I wasn't finding much igniting in the local places that I went to.
Maria, I so appreciate you sharing your history with us. It's very interesting, and you and I could talk for hours. Well, we have. If folks want to learn more about you, or maybe even to connect with you for a session, are you doing one-on-one sessions with folks right now?
I have been guided to open that back up for years. I was guided not to teach people in groups mastery. I was guided that I needed to teach the teachers mastery. And I've been working on that for about 12 years. And so I shut down all my private work because I created some amazing group trainings. And I never was interested in being the healer. I was always interested in empowering and teaching. But this year, as I've been pulled back from my programs and courses, I've noticed that many light workers are needing support. And I have been gifted some energies that I know they need. And so I've opened up some private sessions as well. So I'm really spirit guided individually who I work with and how I work. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
How do folks reach you? How do they find out about you, and how do they reach you?
My website is kumarihealing.com. That's KUMARI healing.com. And you can reach me through there. And there's also a beautiful free gift, which I hope everybody grabs. It's an activation of the higher heart chakra. It's more new earth energies of that higher heart, higher mind, and the throat opening. And it's really potent. It was given to me in a straight on meditation when I went into the studio. I had no idea it was coming through, but it's really beautiful. And that would be my free gift. And then all my contact info is at kumarihealing.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for this time together. Friends here at Enlightened World Network, thanks for coming on. Thanks for checking out a new light worker. Well, new to you, light worker. So much love and appreciation for all. Thank you, Kumari.
Thanks so much, Ruth. Take care.